So today we are going to look at legitimacy and sovereignty. We are going to explain the following. Our objective cuts across two contents. Explain the term legitimacy, mention the factors that determines a government's legitimacy, describe the term sovereignty, outline its types, and list the limitations of a state's sovereignty. So let's jump into the deal. So when we say a government is legitimate, we're simply trying to say that that government has the people's backing. So if you look here, it says it refers to the acceptability of a government by its citizens. That means the government, the people gave these governments in power their mandates. Most often it is done through election. That means the people elected this government and put them in that position to govern them, right? So such government must derive its power and mandate from the people. We're just saying the same thing in different words. Now, what factors can determine a government's legitimacy? So a government is legitimate if it conducts regular, free, and fair election. That means the election is credible, devoid of electoral malpractice. If it allows for popular participation, right? When the government allows various interest groups like political parties, pressure groups, to take part in the political system, even civil societies as well. Another option is if the government allows the toleration of the opposition. You know, they say majority rule and minority rights. Most often when party A wins, party B becomes the opposition. APC won and PDP became the opposition. These are basic terms we have to know by now. Also, the government is legitimate if it allows for the rule of law to thrive. The rule of law simply means that the law is bigger than every other person in the land, that the law is in charge. Both the rulers and the led must take their cue or depend or follow the dictates of the law. If the country is recognized by other foreign nations, right? So it gives that government legitimacy, right? So if the government provides the basic needs of the people, right? So let's go into sovereignty and see. So the concept of sovereignty simply means that is defined as the ultimate power of the state to conduct its affairs without any form of interference or reference to any external sovereignty or any external entity. That means a state is capable or have the capacity to regularize, regulate, conduct its affairs, right? Determine the destiny of its citizens without referring to the authority, another external or internal entity, right? So that means the state is a sovereign state. It is independent as per the word independent. Now, what are the types of sovereignty we have? We have legal sovereignty, right? In legal sovereignty, it means that this is the power the state possesses that enables it to make law, right? The capacity of the state to make laws and govern its territory. De facto sovereignty, this is when sovereignty is acquired by force. Let's say a neutral, an external body invades the country and takes over the government and imposes its will on the people. It is done through coercion. It's called de facto. The opposite is de jure sovereignty. This is acquired in accordance with the law of the land. Like if they say it's going to be done via election, it is done through election. That's why we call it de jure sovereignty. Internal sovereignty, this is the supreme power of the state to make and enforce law within its jurisdiction, within its territory, right? External sovereignty, this is the capacity of a state to relate with other sovereigns. And these other sovereigns recognizes this state as an equal. Take note of that part, right? Political sovereignty, this is the type of sovereignty is known as popular sovereignty. Here, the supreme power is vested in the people because the people are the ones that put the government in place. So all these things we are talking about now is more or less happens if the government is a democratic government. That's where popular participation or popular sovereignty can take place. So where do we locate sovereignties in some systems in some political systems? Like in the parliamentary political system, sovereignty is located in the parliament, the head of government. In the presidential, sovereignty is located with the people. The people are the one that elects the government and puts the government in position. In a federal system, sovereignty is located in the constitution, which is rigid in one document, difficult to amend, and also the people. In a unitary government, sovereignty is located in the central authority. In a constitutional monarch, sovereignty is located in the head of government, yeah. Right? And in an absolute monarch, sovereignty is located in that absolute monarch because he has absolute power. He accounts to no one. He is the judiciary, the legislator, and the executive. So this is where I'm going to rest. So, we have the limitations of sovereignty. What can limit the sovereignty of a sovereign state? What can limit the capacity of a state to manage its affairs without external influence? Number one, the electorates. So the electorates can vote out a government in power. So also the type of government you have. If that government is a military government, then the sovereignty can never happen ab initio. Membership of international organizations. So if a country belongs to UN or OPEC, ECOWAS, it must take some of the decisions made at that ECOWAS, at ECOWAS or UN or OPEC, and implement in its nation, regardless of what the president feels about it. So it limits the sovereignty of that state. Another one is public opinion. The people can voice out, air their views angrily, air their views positively, and the government will be forced to dance streets. International laws, rule of fundamental human rights, for example, is an article of the United Nations. So if you're a member of the United Nations, you must enshrine this in your constitution, right? It's an example. Now, influence of pressure groups. Pressure groups can force the government to make a decision they never wanted to make. So it can limit the capacity of the government to impose its will on the people. And then influence of powerful countries, right? So it is known that some countries can intervene in the affairs of other countries as well. We know that either in politics, in war, we call it proxy war, and so on and so forth. So these are some of the ways the sovereignty of a state can be limited. Now, if you look carefully well, we've looked at meaning of legitimacy, factors that determine a government's legitimacy, describe the term sovereignty, outline its types, list the limitations of a state's sovereignty. Now, look at this topic. Do you believe that if I say state A is a sovereign state, can you give me reasons why you believe that state A is actually a sovereign state? And if you feel that they aren't a sovereign state, can you give me reasons to support your view? Right? The thing about government is that most of what we learn, most of what we study happens in the real world. So the more we understand what's happening in the real world, the more we appreciate governments. So I always encourage my students to watch news on a daily basis, 1 hour, 30 minutes every day. It puts you in the know, right? So if you have any question, drop it in the comment section. I'm going to be there and I'm going to answer it ASAP.